Three, two, one, go.
Okay. Hey everyone, I'm Paul Mr. Cleveland Warren, living in the city of Cleveland, in the state of Cleveland, in the United States of Cleveland. Oh my God, I've been having one of those days, those weeks, those months.
Lifetimes.
Yeah, maybe the next life will be better than this life. Well, actually,
Did you convert to Buddhism, or is that Hinduism?
Both.
So you believe in an afterlife now? I mean, a reincarnation?
No, I mean, well, the after.
Oh, you are. So it's still a Christian philosophy. Okay.
Yeah, yes. I'm still Lutheran. I'm still died Catholic. Crow and Serval over there. But speaking of movie sign, I was going to review Independence Day, but since I didn't watch the film, and again, I've been having that moment, I decided to go with Bruce Almighty, Thy Will Be Done. Starring Jim Carrey, Jennifer Aniston, Morgan Freeman, and Steve Carell. He was actually starting to become a star at that time.
It was before 40-Year-Old Virgin, but after the first season of The Office, right?
And I believe so. Yeah, so we start the film off with Bruce Nolan at Kowalski's Bakery wearing this hairnet. God, why do you hate me so much? And it's because they're having their 30th anniversary and they decided to make, Buffalo's biggest cookie. And they did set the record. And play the Chariots of Fire theme. That's been played at like many movies ever since the movie came out.
Yeah.
And that's the way the cookie crumbles. I'm Bruce Nolan. Good night. And it was just a review, tape review, is hoping that would be the news thing of the day, but Bruce Nolan wants to be an anchor man, but he knows that Evan's going to get it. But Grace Connolly, played by Jennifer Aniston, this was almost finishing up Friends. And to be truthful, I kind of like Aniston in movies rather than in Friends. I'm sorry, but her character, Rachel Green, I'm afraid to say this, world, but Rachel Green's kind of a bitch.
Well, it's Aniston's character in this movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
For a good 10 or so years, they did that with Bruce Almighty. They did that with, what was that movie she did with, what's his name?
Ben Stiller.
Well, Ben Stiller. She said Along Came Polly. And then there was that other one with the tall guy.
I don't know.
What's his name? He was in the remake of Psycho.
Oh, the one with Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
Vince Vaughn. And she plays the same kind of character in that, too. She's kind of bitchy, but she's cute. And she can be funny and sort of fun. And she seems like a nice girlfriend, but she also seems like a pain in the ass sometimes, like girlfriends can be. Like, she just got pigeonholed into that role for, like, 10 years. And it was still, like, a continuation of Rachel. It wasn't until she did, like, We Are the Millers and Horrible Bosses where, like, there was this little tonal change comedically where she was a little more over the top. And
wasn't Aniston in an Adam Sandler film?
Yeah, was she a girlfriend in one of those?
I don't know.
Or a wife in one of those? He's had just about, like, every hot actress play a wife in every single movie he's ever done.
So Grace wants Bruce to do the make the photo albums alongside with them, saying like, "This is fun, isn't it?" And then he sees, "Oh wow, hey, you're nuding this one at the weekend at the lake." No, you shouldn't be seeing that. That's private. And then they wrestle around it like he did that weekend. And the next day, Grace wakes up Bruce. It's like, "No, I'm having a good dream," and he sees the Sabres lost. Huh. Well, luckily we don't have a hockey team. I would be saying that because, like, this was done in Cleveland. I was Bruce Nolan's like, well, the Cleveland Indians have lost to the lowly Detroit Tigers.
All right.
And it's like, yeah, the Cleveland Idiots. They're my team. and Bruce thinking that this cookie review would be his pinnacle story. It'd be like, oh, you're like Walter Cronkite. That's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way the cookie crumbles. And that's the way, I like it. And so Sam the dog starts peeing on the chair, and he's trying to train the dog to not to pee outside rather than on the chair.
Mm-hmm.
But that's doggy instincts, marking their spots. And that's maybe they should call them spots. So Bruce drops off Grace to the daycare, and there's a blood drive, and a little bit of foreshadowing there because she's AB positive. Well, I'd be positive they don't stick me in with any needles. I don't know if Jim Carrey's actually anti-blood drawing because he's anti-vaccination.
Right. Well, blood drive probably not. Blood drives are a good thing.
Yeah.
Vaccines, although are also a good thing, don't think I'm some sort of anti-vaxxer myself. It's just, there's a lot of research that goes into the science that is vaccines. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they get pushed out a little sooner than they should. Other times they are, tried and true. It's why we don't have mumps, measles, and rubella anymore.
Well, I did get mumps.
Wait, you had the mumps?
Yes.
When you were a child?
1990.
So that was after you got the shot, even.
Mm-hmm.
After the shot. I don't even know what mumps are.
That's when your glands get tight.
Oh, is that like the kissing disease? What do they call it?
Something like that.
Right? Didn't I get that once when I was like 11 or 12?
I don't know.
I thought that was strep throat.
That's strep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had strep.
I got mumps. No, I got mumps. My big old mumps instead of my lady.
Yeah, right. That Fergie song. She had written the song about her mumps instead.
Yeah, but so Bruce is stuck in traffic, and the meeting goes late. So it's like then the meeting goes on without him because he's running late, and some homeless guy's like, "Are you blind?" No, but I'm late, and so the new staff is there, and they're seeing talking about Peter's retirement. Pete finally's retirement because he was there since 1970, and so Evan Baxter kind of rips, and he's like, "Well, my news report got in there, but instead of yours, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Hey, Evan, do you like jazz?" He's sticking up the finger.
Mm-hmm.
I can hold that note up there, buddy. So as the boss, Jack, is getting his lunch, Bruce is like, I'm almost hitting 40 and I got nothing. That sounds like my life. And Jack says, and then Bruce says, "Man, you should be like Jack." "Why do you want to be like Jack? He's an asshole." And so it's like the only thing asshole is he could do is just toss his sandwich all over the place. Bruce. But Jack says, "Hey, why don't you go be on the Maid of the Mist in an hour? Because it's their 156th anniversary. You get to be live. You get to talk to the late Irene, whose mother was on Maiden Voyage, and so Bruce is like really excited that he's gonna probably be bumped up because Susan Ortega did the same thing.
Okay.
And so it's like he's hoping that it's gonna be the best thing, but then as they hit to Bruce Nolan, Susan Ortega says, "Oh, we have an announcement of Pete's retirement," and in some ways, I don't think Bruce would have mind that Evan Baxter, played by Steve Carell,
mm-hmm.
Got the part.
Yeah,
but
they're watching you.
Oh, why?
No, I don't know. It's just because you didn't get to do them in the introduction.
Okay, then. But
I'm going to move them away now.
All right, so.
Because I'm not going to hold them up.
Sir, what do you have to say to me?
Nice movie sign. Oh, this guy, he's got a stupid hat or shirt on. What's up with the hat on Martin Luther? That's weird too. I don't know.
But So I think it was the way that Evan said it, because he kind of stole what Bruce was going to said in his cookie report, and a few nuts thrown as well. And it was like almost a slam, because Bruce Nolan does the lighter side of news.
Right.
And so it's like he's frozen stiff.
Yeah, because he uses his tagline, that's the way the cookie crumbles, so now Bruce doesn't have his tagline to say or whatever.
Yeah, and he goes berserk. He calls Irene, Katharine Hepburn's mom, saying, why'd you let Leonardo DiCaprio drown? Why'd you? And it's like, okay. And then before they could try to pull the plug, Bruce Nolan drops the F-bomb and gets fired.
Mm.
That's you say it one time and goodbye. Okay, I'll do the real news, not at Wimpy Kitty Baby Whiners.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sees a gang like beat up the homeless person, and the homeless but then they beat him up because he's like Todd's like, yeah, you better keep running, and so they beat him up. They key his car. They dump all over the floor. It's like, oh, don't look at me, Walter. And so Bruce is upset because he had like the worst day of his life, and then he's like, I have no bird, I have no bush. Gotta sing my bird and my bush. God's a mean anthill. God sucks. And it's God's fault. Yeah, Sam, why don't you pee on me? And so, and Grace gets tired after he tosses the photo album across the room.
Right.
I'm not okay with a mediocre apartment. I'm not okay with a mediocre life. And so it's just like, is that what we have? A mediocre life? Oh, thank you. Now I'm going to have the worst day of my life with a side of guilt, please. And so he's driving. So he takes a drive and he decides to pray, but he loses the prayer beads that Grace gave him early.
And don't you always find it amusing that, like, the people who complain in movies about how terrible their lives are have some pretty decent lives? It's always driven me nuts.
Okay, yeah, but so he tosses a prayer beads like, all right, God, smite me, almighty smiter. And his pager beeps.
Mm-hmm.
All through the night and even through the next morning. So he tosses the pager or beeper, and Sam,
that was a time, huh?
Yeah.
2004 was when this movie was made?
2003.
2003, people still had pagers.
And Sam the dog still peeing like, no, this is a house. This is a house, bathroom, whatever. And so his pager's still beeping and calls a number, and he's visiting a place called Omnipresence. It's like, great, this is promising.
Yeah, it's a big old empty building, right?
Mm-hmm. And he sees Morgan Freeman as a custodian. Elevator's upstairs. You're looking for the 7th floor.
I'd watch a whole movie where Morgan Freeman just plays a custodian.
Didn't he play custodian in one film?
I don't know.
But then, so he's on the 7th floor, and he's a mechanic as well. He's like, but the elevators are broken. Oh yeah, I'll get to it. But the boss will be out by now, and the boss is God. Bingo! Yahtzee! Is that your final answer? Our survey says God! Ding, 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 ding. Oh, and by the way, you suck!
And this is what Jim Carrey says to him?
Yes.
Okay.
And Morgan feels like, but I know everything about you. Everything in this file. This last one was very problematic. God has taken my bird and my bush. Smite me, almighty smiter. And don't tempt me. And so, like, when Bruce has 7 fingers, ha! Ah! And so...
How many fingers am I holding behind my back?
Yeah.
7. That's impossible.
But, yeah, so... God tells him, you're not going to have my powers when you leave this building. And so Bruce is very scared. He's like, okay, if I'm God, then I'm Clint Eastwood. Be careful what you wish for, Tommy. I have a 742 Magnum, the most powerful gun in the world. And
is there a 742 Magnum?
I forgot.
I'm pretty sure it's a Magnum 57. Does that sound right?
I don't know. But,
or is it Heinz 57? That's ketchup.
And don't. And I think it's disgusting when you put ketchup on a hot dog.
I don't think Clint Eastwood says that.
He did say that.
He says that in the line in that movie.
In the movie, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he says, don't ever put ketchup on a hot dog.
Oh, that's random that I made my random comment then, because I forgot that line.
But yeah, so we go to the diner. It's like, I guess normal. And the lady who works there is giving him soup, and so he does the Ten Commandments thing.
He parts the red soup.
The red soup, tomato soup.
Yeah.
So, having fun. And then so they take a walk. Take a closer walk to me. So they're walking on Lake. I don't know if Buffalo's located on Lake Niagara, Lake Erie, or Lake Ontario.
I believe it's off the shores of Lake Erie as well, because isn't that part of the exchange with Cleveland, Pittsburgh,
Erie,
Buffalo, right? Because you go up through that way, it's all Lake
something
Erie.
like that. So they're walking on one of the lakes. It's like,
and they're walking directly on a lake. That's pretty funny.
And he's like, now there's two things don't ever. There's two rules. One, never tell anyone you're God. You don't want that kind of thing. And two, you cannot mess with free will. And then God takes the prayer beads, and Bruce is like, I have God powers. I've got the power! Boom! And it's like, explodes the fire hydrant, and it does the. I wish that lady that yelled at the show sure does the Marilyn Monroe thing. Woo! Like, 7-year-itch thing.
Yeah.
And then he sees the bully, so he decides to become macho. It's like, I'm not here to fight. Yeah, well, you'll get your sorry when a monkey crawls out of my butt. And guess what?
Wait, whose butt did a monkey crawl out of?
Oh, one of the bullies.
Oh, a police officer, eh?
No.
Oh.
But then, from the gang.
Oh, okay. He's confronted with a gang. Isn't that a lot like The Mask, where he gets confronted by a biker gang?
Something like that. I don't know. There's a lot of references to other Jim Carrey films in this.
Yeah.
And so the monkey crawls out of this guy's butt. It's like, oh, this is some voodoo shit, man! And they run away, and then Bruce is spewing out hornets all over them, and he's like, I am Bruce Almighty, my will be done. And so that night, Bruce gives Grace the most wonderful night of her life. Giant lassoing the moon.
Right.
And
that's when he pulls the moon closer.
Yes.
Well, that's a reference to It's a Wonderful Life, right?
But yeah,
Crash for the Moon.
They show the movie on there. I'll talk about that a little bit soon. But I recommend this film to my favorite Jim Carrey movie of all time, and we also have other shows as well. And coming up soon today is the 16 Reasons Why Christmas Eats. I used to love Christmas, but they're talking about Christmas in July, so why not? So. Click the like, subscribe, get notified. So the next day, Bruce is hearing all these voices, wondering what they are about, but he ignores them. He gives Grace bigger boobs and tries to enjoy his breakfast.
Right.
But he decides to get his job back, and for that, he actually meets one of the other news people from another station, and it's like he has a report that he found Jimmy Hoffa's body, and the other newscasters had a buttload of marijuana. I think it's now legal. In New York to smoke pot recreationally, I think.
Oh, yeah?
Well, it's New York, so it's like. But yeah, I wouldn't mind if it gets recreationalized in Ohio. I wouldn't mind seeing that. But so he also makes Sam actually use the toilet.
Oh, he gets the dog to use the toilet. Well, that's just right from Meet the Fockers, isn't it?
I don't know. But yeah, so he does a lot of things. So one of the things he actually returns to WKBW and Jack rehires him, doing the lighter side of news. Actually, if I actually did get on the news, I wouldn't mind doing the lighter side stuff. Yeah, because there's this guy that we kind of saw a couple times. His name's Kenny Crumpton.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
He's got a good segment.
Yeah, I don't know if Kenny Crumpton is watching this, but
oh well, if you ever do, Mr. Crumpton, remember those times we did Death Road Jukebox or whatever we called the game up at Johnny Malloy's on the Lakewood border. You were a good man for spending a little bit of time with us, and especially Paul. Paul blew your mind with his musical knowledge. So, and you and your friends have a deep wealth of musical knowledge yourselves.
Yeah, and like I said, if
thanks for the good times.
And if there any news company in Cleveland wants to do light side of news, I'm game.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what Bruce Nolan basically did.
Mm-hmm.
It's something similar to Kenny Crumpton. So he also was at the Mark Twain Chili Cook-Off and Meteor Strikes, and everyone is liking what he's doing.
But he caused the meteor to strike, so he'd have a big important news story.
Yeah.
Even though the Mark Twain Chili Cook-Off, I mean, everybody dressed up as Mark Twain or their favorite Mark Twain characters.
I don't know.
So it was funny because it was Jim Carrey dressed as Mark Twain. I'd watch a skit where Jim Carrey plays Mark Twain, not a full movie like Morgan Freeman playing a janitor.
Like maybe they revived In Living Color with the whole cast. But yeah, so Grace and his sister Debbie are getting Japanese massages, and Debbie says that Bruce is going to get engaged with you. It's like, really? But actually, the next day, Bruce decides to have some fun with Evan Baxter as the anchor, and it's like he started sounding like me. And I do the cha-cha like a sissy little girl. I like to do the cha-cha. I like to sing like the Muna and I like the Muna and the Juna and the Spring.
Wait, he actually does that stuff? Okay.
I like to sing.
Because that was South Park took that from Looney Tunes, right?
Yes.
I like a singer. I like a Muna and the Juna and the Dinga.
Yes.
I like a singer.
And well, actually, that came originally was kind of their cartoon version of the Jazz Singer.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they ever have that on DVD, they should add that cartoon on there too, because
Mm-hmm.
But so it like they decide to not have Evan be the anchor man because of it, and
which also was a bit in Anchor, the movie The Anchorman, which I think came out afterwards, but Steve Carell was in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that was before even. Now I don't know.
I don't know my time. I think it was Bruce Almighty was first, then Anchorman.
Right, because then in Anchorman, it's just Will Ferrell's character, and he reads just whatever's on the teleprompter.
Yes, and
very similar concepts.
So, for some apparent reason, I think movies in the 2000s, especially comedies, and for some one way, shape, or form, they kind of intertwine. It's like they could be in different. They go through many universes, but still stay in one place.
Well, and since a lot of these guys, right, and that's actually a good way of putting it. It's almost like since all of these guys worked together and they were doing all these things at other places, whether they be in the Groundlings or Saturday Night Live, or they were all like actors in comics together and things like that, they all knew each other's jokes and made the jokes together and would probably have to play those roles on different nights at different things. And so it doesn't really belong to any one particular person. Yeah, so, even the writers, a lot of those writers were involved with that stuff.
I think that was a 2000 style comedy.
Right.
But
and even some of those were jokes that were bred off of stuff that were done in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yes. But so that night, as Tony Bennett's crooning, Bruce tells Grace, I got an anchor. They're going to have a party for me tomorrow night at the Vanderbilt house. But he keeps hearing these noise voices. It's like, and he asks God, what are these voices? What are these voices? They're prayers. I decided to give you a little bit of the Buffalo neighborhood you're at because I didn't want to give you too much.
Right.
So, what Bruce does is have like an email kind of thing. Yahweh! Yahweh.
Okay.
Yeah, that should actually be a good web page for people who need prayer. You know, like Yahweh and you've got prayers. And it's like got over 3 million of them. And it's like, yes to all of you. And that night, they were having a great. Bruce was having a great time, referencing Adam and Eve. Be fruitful, do long division, and turning water into wine.
Did he kind of get Catholic there, sort of?
I don't know. What do you mean?
It sounds like he's, telling them to do Hail Marys and stuff like that.
No, I don't think so. But he was moving like Jagger. Because there was a Mick Jagger song on there. But he decides to try to call Grace, and it's like, come on, Sam. And then Sam, it's like Grace is watching TV. Sam turns on the It's a Wonderful Life, the moon scene.
Right.
Like we already mentioned. And so Grace decides to go, and Susan says, hey, Bruce, I don't see Grace here. And Bruce gets tempted, and so Susan's kissing Bruce, and Grace appears. Oh, uh-oh. And she's angry because she saw Bruce kissing Susan. And then Bruce is like, no wonder you stayed single.
Right.
And then they says party's over, and all the sprinklers turn on, and the TV's still on for a little while. Then it shorts out, and then God's like, enjoy your party. How can I get Grace back to come back to me? How can I do it without messing with free will? Well, welcome to my world, Bruce. Well, that is kind of a true statement with God.
Yeah.
And so he decides to do a lot of signs, like, let's forgive Bruce. And it like carves Bruce and Grace's name on trees. Say, call Bruce.
Yeah.
Like a promotion for music, like, all you need is Bruce. Do that to Bruce one more time. Bruce so horny, be so long. If you can't find the one you love, then love Bruce.
Right.
No, Bruce so horny, he love you long time.
Uh-huh.
That's Two Life Crew song, too.
That is.
And sweating to Bruce. I'm a pony! I'm a pony! I'm a pony! I'm a pony! Yeah.
So he makes workout videos for people? What?
All right, everyone. Let's never say diet, say live it.
Okay.
That's my bad Richard Simmons impersonation.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
But
I always thought it'd be a good movie where Richard Simmons and Gene Simmons played brothers.
That or sketch. So Bruce is at the daycare where Grace works at, and Bruce says, "Hey, Grace, I'm getting anchor." And he tries to win her back again, but it's like, "No, I used to love you. Goodbye." And so that night, Bruce is on the air, and it's, they have a big announcement. The Sabres win the Stanley Cup, which probably will never happen.
Are they really that bad?
Yeah, actually, they're kind of bad right now. But I don't know about the Bills.
Oh, you're talking football?
Yeah. What do you think?
Bills actually made the AFC Championship game last year. I think the top 3 teams in the AFC right now are the Chiefs, Bills, and Browns.
In my opinion, I would find this interesting.
Bills and Browns in the AFC Championship game. One of them's got to get past the Chiefs at some point. I think that's what'll be tough. If the Chiefs haven't improved on defense, though, you can find some holes in their game. But
yeah. So Bruce is hearing all this chaos is happening out on the streets of Buffalo, and he does the same thing he did with the Niagara Falls thing. Freezes. Yeah. We got a Walt Disney. And so he decides, okay, I don't think I can do this. So he has Susan take over, and he sees, like, people saying, woo, woo, Sabres, we won the cup. Yeah. And then they're protesting of the lottery because people only won like around $17. And it's like people are hating WKBW, and it's like God. And so God says, it's not easy being God, is it? Another true statement too.
Correct.
And Bruce said, I gave them everything they wanted. And God said, when do people really want what they wanted? And he's saying, why don't you be the miracle? And so Bruce decides to help out other people because
he actually got more fulfillment out of his own life.
Yes. He tells Evan that the job's all yours. He shakes his hand and then returns to the lighter side of the news. And Evan's now the anchor man. Then there's also...
But in the anchor man, he's the weatherman.
I think so. But
yeah, I know. He is.
And so other things that he does is he fills up the photo albums and he teaches Sam how to use the bathroom outside. He usually is the chair that...
Oh, yeah, he just takes the chair outside. So the dog pees on the chair still, but it's outside. Turned out you just like peeing on the chair, huh?
No, actually, he kind of takes it down, like weaning it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and eventually gets rid of the chair and he's peeing on a tree, right?
Yeah. And it's just a pillow right now. And Deb comes in and is trying to take Grace's stuff, and Deb says, Grace prays about you. He stops answering everyone's prayers. He checks Grace's prayers. Bruce checked Grace's prayers.
Yeah.
And Bruce sees Grace praying again. And she's like, I don't want to be in this thing. I want to let go of him. And so Bruce said, I give up. You win. And he feels a little bit better, a little bit relieved, and then a semi-truck hits him.
Uh-huh.
And he's in heaven.
Okay.
And God's telling him, Bruce, you can't stand in the middle of traffic and talk about it. And he tells God to make Grace happy, even if it's without him. He says, I'll get out right away. Claire! And then he comes to.
Right.
And he's in the hospital. He sees the blood that's AB. That was hers.
Uh-huh.
It helped him. And he has a prayer beads in his hand, and Grace comes back to him, and he does a news report on a blood drive where the Kowalskis have another cookie, and it's made out of a vaccination shot, blood syringe, and then Bowles clicking his nose. And so it's like everything's back to where it should be, and Bruce is happy again, and the homeless guy holding all the signs turns into God. Armageddon, out of here. And
That's the last line?
Uh-huh.
Now, I think I told you. So we were playing a card game over the weekend, me and some buddies of mine, and it's called Super Fight.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a character card, and then you get attribute cards with it. And one of the character cards is pick a movie character. And so they picked God. And I think this would actually be a good top 16 for you, because there have been so many different gods in movies, so many different variations, or in television shows, like The Simpsons has God as a character, so on and so forth. Even that new one, that television show about Satan, whatever it's called.
Well,
And so there's a version of God in that. But when we asked the person who made God the character, I think it was Aaron of all people too. You might remember.
he kind of looks like his
Jesus,
son.
right?
Yeah.
That's appropriate. But so he went with the Morgan Freeman from Bruce Almighty God, because that might be the most powerful God in film. Outside of maybe God in like the Ten Commandments or one of those, right? Where he's not seen.
What I would like to see, too bad George Burns, he'd be like around in his 120 or something.
Right, that was the one I brought up first, actually. I'm like, is it George Burns or? Right.
Oh, me. But that would be funny, like if I play George Burns as God and
Gracie.
and we find somebody to play, and then we get somebody to play Alanis Morissette version of God.
Yeah, that was the one you mentioned. I had forgotten about her. She's not a very strong God in a movie, because she actually takes the form of an older man who gets beat up, and she's in intensive care for like the whole movie. But then she's Alanis Morissette at the end, and you're all like, all right, that's.
Ow! I gotta stay cool here now.
I mean, if you're gonna do 2001 casting, I mean, you want to be slightly controversial too, and it's funny on top of it, because at least she doesn't say a word. She actually plays it pretty well, to be honest with you.
I'm not much of a fan of Dogma than I am Bruce Almighty, but
Bruce Almighty, I don't know. Both movies are very different and good in their own ways. Dogma goes and plays off of a lot of the Catholicism, like the shit monster. That's not even something that's actually in the Catholic Bible, I don't believe, but it's a part of the offshoot of Catholic storytelling and all that.
Yeah, because what I also like about Bruce Almighty at the end, because there are some outtakes that he does, like he pretended to be Sammy Davis Jr., like the Candyman, oompa loompa.
Okay.
And so it's like, but the less I talk about the sequel, the better.
Yeah, we'll avoid that unless you actually do a review of it someday. Evan Almighty,
yeah,
right?
Evan Almighty, it's like a spin-off of Bruce Almighty.
Well, because by then, Steve Carell would show that he could carry a movie by himself because of stuff like 40-Year-Old Virgin, but sequels, oh man, I mean, 98 times out of 100, 97 times out of 100, the sequel sucks more than the original. Probably 99 out of 100, to be honest with you. But anyway...
Yeah, that's why I sometimes call them twin movies.
Yeah, because half the time, I mean, that's the problem with Major League too. I mean, we talk about that. All they did was remake Major League with a few more jokes in it.
Yeah, so next week I'm going to review, since we're going to Philadelphia next week, I was thinking about reviewing another movie about Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Story, starring Cary Grant, one of the Katharine Hepburn, I believe.
Okay.
And Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
It's a 1940s rom-com, which it's another great film too. And this is what I probably could make a lot of reviews of movies. But as of right now, I'm Paul Miscloon Waring, living in the city of Cleveland, in the state of Cleveland, in the United States of Cleveland. Signing off for now.
Alrighty, let me hit the button. Push the button, Mark. And we're clear.